I had known Jason for 10 years. I had been his girlfriend in an ambiguous relationship for 6 years. On the night of my 26th birthday, he made an official announcement on his WeChat Moments. However, the person he announced was not me. He captioned a photo, "This is my woman." In the photo, he was holding a woman who looked 5 or 6 points similar to me in his arms, with a proud smile on his face. I didn't make a fuss. I packed my bags and left that night. After that, Jason caused all kinds of drama on WeChat Moments and within the circle we both knew. And the news somehow always reached me. One moment he was in the hospital, the next moment he was out, and then he was in the hospital again on another day. I disgustedly blocked his WeChat. Finally, 42 days later, Jason called me for the first time on his own initiative. "Samara, you've made enough of a fuss, right? When are you coming back to take care of me?" However, it wasn't me who answered the phone. It was my husband. Jason's eyes were bloodshot. "Who are you? Where's Samara?" Warren shushed him softly. "You know very well who I am." On the night of my 26th birthday, in the house where Jason and I lived together, I received a big gift from Jason. It wasn't the long-awaited official announcement and proposal. It was a breakup. I was looking at that photo when I received a call from Lily in the flickering candlelight. "Samara, stay away from my brother from now on. You, an insignificant 18th-tier actress, will never be able to enter the Jason family. You can have your dreams of marrying into a wealthy family, but it's time to wake up when the day breaks." I gripped the phone, my nails digging deep into my flesh, and blood seeped out little by little. I didn't say a word and hung up. Lily was right to scold me. After knowing each other for 10 years, even his difficult mother had reluctantly accepted the fact that I was by Jason's side. However, I never got his open and honest acknowledgement. What more could I expect? I wouldn't deceive myself into believing that the post on WeChat Moments was just a joke by Jason. Just because I had actually seen the woman in the photo. To be precise, I had seen her photo. Because that photo had always been in Jason's wallet. So I knew he wasn't joking this time. He had finally turned the moonlight he could never have before into the one by his pillow. Just as Lily said, it was time to wake up from the dream. I blew out the flickering red candles on the long dining table, as if cutting off all my expectations of Jason with my own hands. Then, I started packing my things with a blank expression. Actually, there were few things in this house that belonged to me. The dispensable ones, I treated them as if they didn't exist. As for the things Jason gave me, I didn't take any of them. Jason was quite generous to me and gave me many luxury items. However, since I didn't even want him anymore, I definitely wouldn't want the things he gave me. Soon, I had packed 2 suitcases. It was already midnight. "Samara, you're 26 years old." I had planned to leave quietly, but when I went out to throw something away, I saw Jason's car slowly approaching. I didn't stand at the door waiting for him to get out of the car and ask him for a hug as usual. Through the glass, I calmly glanced at him and then turned around and went back into the house. The moment I closed the door, a kiss landed on me. "Jason, I don't want to." The man didn't say a word. Once upon a time, I was also intoxicated by his tenderness. I clearly remembered the sound of my heartbeat back then. It was as deafening as the blooming of flowers in spring. Suddenly, that photo and his caption flashed through my mind. Boom. Some string in my heart finally broke. However, the flowers in my heart had already withered and fallen, no longer as glorious as before. "Enough." I said, "I don't want to." Jason paused, and there was an extra layer of anger in his eyes. "Is it necessary to make such a fuss just because I didn't come back to have dinner with you?" I sneered in my heart, but my face remained calm. "No, it's just a meal. It's not a big deal." There was an extra hint of meaning in the way Jason looked at me. "Okay, stop making a fuss." He reached out to touch my face, but I dodged. See, he still thought I was making a fuss. Jason's hand paused for a moment, and impatience already showed on his face. He said casually, "I'll buy you 2 bags tomorrow. Take my pajamas to the bathroom. I'm going to take a bath." With that, he ignored whether I responded or not and directly went into the bathroom. I was completely disappointed in Jason. However, perhaps because of my unwillingness after these 6 years, I still picked up his phone. The password was simple. It was his birthday. I opened the chat group he had with his buddies. "Jason, you're so brave. You finally got your moonlight. Jason, after all these years of twists and turns, Rosie still loves you the most. Jason and Rosie were meant to be together from the start. It was unavoidable that they didn't get together back then. Now it's good. They've reunited and rekindled their old flame. Jason must have had Rosie in his heart all these years, right? Otherwise, why would he find a substitute who looks somewhat similar to Rosie? Jason is really our role model. But, Jason, now that Rosie's back, what about Samara? She's been with you for so many years. When I saw this sentence, my heart still skipped a couple of beats. Jason didn't reply with text but with a voice message. What can I do? Just leave it be. I'm not going to marry her. Don't you guys know who I want to marry? But, Samara is nice. She's liked you for so many years. It's not easy. Jason, are you willing to let her go? Sam, don't get on Jason's bad side. It's her own overestimation. She's been pestering Jason shamelessly. Jason has never admitted her. I turned off Jason's phone. I thought I would cry. But there was no ripple on my face. It's good. Girls have many paths to choose from. But no matter when, don't choose the one paved with your self-esteem. It may seem like there are beautiful flowers, but in fact, what lies beneath is an abyss. Every step you take brings you closer to doom. Samara. My clothes. I put down the phone and calmly took Jason's pajamas to the bathroom door. It's on the doorknob. Get it yourself. 5 minutes later, Jason came out, wiping his wet hair. He said casually, blow dry my hair. I was standing at the entrance, with 2 suitcases beside me. I looked at Jason, who was looking in the mirror, indifferently. Jason, blow it yourself. I'm leaving. Jason didn't look at me. Where are you going at this late hour? Hurry up and blow dry my hair. I was a bit annoyed. He never learned to say please to me. It was always cook for me, blow dry my hair, get me a piece of clothing. Just like now, he was taking it for granted that I should serve him. Jason, I'm leaving you. Let's break up. Jason stopped wiping his hair and then turned to look at me. His eyes froze for a moment when he saw the suitcases beside me, who was neatly dressed. Then, he lifted his eyelids and stared at me coldly. Really? Hearing this, I even smiled at him. Sort of. Okay, goodbye, Jason. I said goodbye to him, put the access card in my hand on the cabinet at the entrance, opened the door and walked down the steps. Samara. Don't expect me to coax you back. If you leave today, it's over between us. I paused my steps, but I didn't look back. I had once been so humble in love that I was like dust. However, I couldn't live in the dust forever. The door behind me slammed shut. My once obsession was shattered to pieces. However, the fragrance of flowers in late spring wafted into my nostrils with the evening breeze. That was the smell of freedom. I booked a flight at night and flew directly to Binhai. Before getting on the plane, I posted a WeChat moments. I wrote a few words, it's just 10 years. I still have several more decades. After posting, I turned off my phone and completely emptied my mind. A long time ago, I had mentioned to Jason that I wanted to go on a seaside vacation. He agreed, but it was postponed again and never happened. Now that I've left him, the first place I thought of was Binhai. It's like a birthday gift I gave myself. 26 years old was actually quite an important birthday in my life. It severed the absurd and stubborn self I used to be. Walking on the gentle beach, stepping on the waves one after another, and watching the new sun gradually emerging from the hazy clouds, it was enough to celebrate my new life. It was my second day in Binhai. In the early morning, when I was sitting on the beach watching the sunrise again, footsteps sounded behind me. I didn't turn around. This was a tourist destination, and tourists came from all over the world. I surely wasn't the only one who liked watching the sunrise. Samara, hello? Facing the vast sea, my name was called out again, carrying a sense of emptiness that seemed somewhat distorted. I turned around blankly and met a pair of deep eyes. It was him. Warren, hello. Warren put one hand in his pocket and smiled at me very naturally. You like watching the sunrise? I nodded, not looking at him, my eyes fixed on a small, swaying dot in the distance. Warren sat down about half a meter away from me. His long arms were draped over his knees, and under the rolled-up sleeves were his well-defined forearm muscles. Warren and I sat on the beach together for almost an hour. The wind carried a faint smell of the sea, completely different from the dryness of Beijing. The spring in Bin Hai was like being wrapped in a layer of cotton candy, sweet and cloying. On the way back, we were going the same way. When we arrived, I found out that Warren was actually staying in the same guest house as I was. Let's have breakfast together? I didn't reject Warren's proposal. So, under the blowing of the lingering sea breeze, Warren and I sat opposite each other at the dining table, having the local daily breakfast. Warren looked at the beach in the distance and said, "When I first went abroad, I thought I wouldn't get used to the pasta there, but after all, I've lived there for so many years." I paused for a moment and then smiled gently. "Does Mr. Warren want to console me?" Warren looked at me, and a faint smile hidden in his inky black eyes gradually spread. "Samara, you've caught me." I stirred the noodle soup in the bowl and, meeting his smiling eyes, said in a calm and composed tone, "I can get used to doji, fermented mung bean milk, mousse sirop, sautéed pork with scrambled eggs and fungus, and I can also adapt to noodle soup and chicken feet with yellowed toenails." Now it was Warren's turn to be stunned for a moment. Then he said with a smile, "I was being shallow. Samara, you're really special." I didn't sleep well at night. After having breakfast with Warren, we went our separate ways. I went back to catch up on sleep, and he went out to handle some business. This kind of life went on for almost a week. It was so peaceful that I felt my days should have been spent this stably. During this week, Warren and I watched the sunrise together, had breakfast together, chatted a little more or less, and then he went about his own business. There were a lot of people on the beach on weekends. There was a bonfire party at night. I was strolling on the beach. When I got tired, I ordered a glass of wine at the beach bar. After a few glasses of wine, I was a bit tipsy, and my steps were a bit unsteady as I walked back to the guest house. "Miss, alone?" A man's voice sounded behind me. I instinctively turned around. It was a man wearing a floral shirt, with a crew cut and earrings. He was looking at me with ill intentions. I knew what was in his eyes. When a man sees a beautiful woman, I was all too familiar with those thoughts. "I'm with my husband." "What do you want?" The man in the floral shirt was obviously startled, and then he sneered, "Where is your husband then?" He took a step forward, and I took 2 steps back warily. "What do you want to do?" "Nothing. I saw the lady drinking alone over there and felt a connection with you, so I wanted to make a friend." I said coldly, "Sorry, I don't make friends casually." With that, I turned around and walked away. Who knew that the man in the floral shirt grabbed my arm? The smell of alcohol on him wafted into my nose. I regretted not bringing my bag when I went out. There was my pepper spray in the bag. "Let go." I struggled hard to break free. "Honey, what are you doing?" Warren's voice came from not far away. I turned around and shouted to him, "Husband, I'm here." The man in the floral shirt who was holding me let go of my arm and turned around and ran away. I didn't care about him and ran straight towards Warren. The sand on the beach was soft, and I accidentally tripped. At the moment when I was about to fall forward, a strong embrace caught me and held me tightly in his arms. Suddenly, my tears gushed out like a flood breaking through a dam. I didn't cry when I saw Jason announcing his relationship with another woman on WeChat Moments. I didn't cry when I packed my bags and left Jason's house. I didn't cry even when I had countless dreams at night about the 10 years I spent with Jason, being gloomy and hopeless. But at this moment, in Warren's arms, I couldn't control my sadness. Warren patted my back gently, again and again. "It's okay. Don't be afraid. I'm here." I smelled the fresh and cool agarwood scent on him, and my heart felt at peace. However, the tears still couldn't stop. The next second, Warren's hoarse voice sounded above my head. "Samara, don't cry. It hurts to see you cry." In an instant, I stopped crying. I lifted my teary eyes and looked into Warren's eyes. There were countless things in those eyes that I couldn't understand. The next second, he bent down and picked me up horizontally. Before we even entered the room, Warren's kiss had already landed on my cheek. "Samara? Is it okay?" I was stunned for a moment, and then I took the initiative to raise my hand and hook it around his neck. It seemed that brilliant sparks shot out from his eyes. "Thank you." He mumbled, "Thank you," before kissing me. I didn't understand why he said that. His passion gave me a distorted illusion at this moment. It was as if Warren had been in love with me for many years. "There are surveillance cameras," I whispered softly. I guessed my face must have been blushing furiously. Warren freed one hand to open the door. The moment the door was closed, I realized how restrained Warren had been just now. He confined me within the small space of his embrace. The sea breeze outside the window carried a faint smell of the sea, stirring the white gauze curtain. How long had Warren been thinking about me? When I regained consciousness, it was already noon the next day. I couldn't help but smile. Samara, are you smiling at me? Our eyes met, and there was a burning passion in his eyes. But I couldn't stop my eyes from getting teary. Seeing my moist eyes, Warren showed a bit of panic on his face. Samara, I'm sorry. Did I hurt you? An hour later, he carried me to the bathroom. Standing together under the shower, I gently stroked the red marks on his body with my fingers while crying, Warren, I'm sorry. Warren pressed me into his arms and kissed the top of my head. Warren's deep eyes locked onto mine, and he said in a somewhat pitiful tone, now that you know, you can't be a heartbreaker. I was stunned. I looked at him with a mixture of wariness and uneasiness. What do you want me to do? Warren said seriously, I want a proper status. I got married to Warren. He asked me to be responsible for him. The price was a marriage certificate. Isn't it crazy? But what's even crazier is that I actually agreed. Soon, the two of us, like a crazy couple, walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Warren happily took my hand and put a ring on my finger. He also showed off his ring to me. Our wedding rings. Warren was smiling like a silly son of a landlord. I was also filled with mixed feelings. What I had been longing for from Jason for 10 years but never got, Warren gave it to me in less than a month. It turns out that it wasn't that the road ahead was full of difficulties and obstacles, but that the person wasn't willing to clear the way for you. There's no other reason. It's just that you're not worth it in his eyes and heart. Honey, can I post on WeChat moments? I nodded. Warren took a lot of selfies with me. Then I watched him, like a primary school student carefully answering a test paper, typing the text one word at a time. But in the end, what I saw was just a few simple and straightforward words. Official announcement, I'm married. He chose the photos to go with it back and forth, and finally settled on our ID photos. Honey, do you want to post one too? When Warren asked me this question, there was a bit of uneasiness on his face. I stood on tiptoe and kissed his cheek and nodded. I also posted one of our ID photos. The caption was just 4 words, married, so happy. Warren watched me editing the WeChat moments without blinking. As soon as I sent it, he immediately commented below. Love you, wife. Meeting his eyes full of affection, I replied under his comment, love you, husband. I received a call from Sam, Jason's friend, on the afternoon when I got the marriage certificate with Warren. Warren had gone out on business, and I was reading the script in the room by myself. When the phone rang, I didn't look at the caller and just tapped to answer it. Samara, it's me. I was stunned. It hadn't been long since I separated from Jason, but I already felt a bit strange about his friends. Looking at the caller ID, I said, Sam. Samara, Jason's stomach problem has flared up again. Do you want to come back and see him? I smiled and said, it's not really appropriate. You should have seen that I'm already married. If I go back to take care of my ex-boyfriend, it would be unfair to my husband. If there's nothing else, I'll hang up now. As I was about to hang up, Sam quickly said, Samara, Jason and Rosie aren't together. Actually, he has feelings for you in his heart. He's sick now. You two have known each other for 10 years and been together for 6 years. For both emotional and reasonable reasons, you should come back and see him. I stopped smiling, and my voice was no longer gentle. Sam, you also know that I've known him for 10 years and been with him for 6 years. Even you know that, but it doesn't matter if Jason doesn't. Has he ever admitted me in front of everyone once? You said for emotional and reasonable reasons. Let me ask you, what are emotions and reasons? Emotions and reasons mean that once you break up, you shouldn't disturb each other's lives anymore. Moreover, I'm already married. Sam seemed to be choked by my straightforward words. He didn't answer for a moment. After 2 seconds, he said a bit weakly, but Jason is really seriously ill. You also know his physical condition. Besides, there is still some affection between you two. I was getting impatient. Sam, when he's sick, he can be accompanied by his family, taken care of by doctors and nurses. At the very least, he still has Rosie and you guys. After all, I'm just a passerby, and you guys are the ones who will be together for a long time. Sam was about to say something but was interrupted by me. Sam, I answered your call today because you showed kindness to me when others were laughing at me and ridiculing me for overestimating myself. When everyone else was praising Jason and Rosie for getting back together, only you asked what would happen to Samara. I remember your kindness, but, Sam, it doesn't mean I'll go back. I love my husband very much. I won't do anything that will make him sad or embarrassed. Don't call me about Jason anymore. Goodbye. When I was about to hang up after saying that, I heard the sound of things shattering on the other end of the phone. Oh, so Jason had been there all along. I smiled and tapped to hang up. Turning my head, I met Warren's eyes, which were as deep as a clear pool. Honey, are you hungry? Let's go and have something to eat. 16 in a hospital ward in Beijing, Sam, holding the hung-up phone, said to Jason, who was lying on the hospital bed with an 4-drip, with a helpless look on his face, Jason, look, Samara probably won't come back. Smack. There was another broken glass on the floor. Who does she think she is? Jason's eyes were bloodshot, and he was gnashing his teeth. Sam's lips moved. He hadn't intended to say anything, but seeing Jason's expression, he still opened his mouth. Jason, actually, Samara is a really nice girl. When you were with her, you were always full of energy and in a good mood, and she took good care of your health too. Rosie can do that too, but don't you yourself even know whether you like the present Rosie or the Rosie in your memory that you couldn't pursue before? Is it possible that Rosie is just an obsession of yours? Also, are you sure that Rosie came back to find you after getting divorced abroad because she always missed you, or did she also treat you as a backup? Jason glared at Sam angrily. Sam swallowed and said timidly, Jason, don't be angry if I said something wrong. I have something else to do. I'll leave first. With that, he quickly fled the ward. Jason looked at the mess on the floor, and his mind was filled with Sam's words just now. Who on earth did he like? He opened that photo almost masochistically. The red background, 2 smiling faces, seemed to shamelessly announce their happiness to the whole world. Fake. It must be fake. 17 On the way back to the hotel after having dinner, I was holding Warren's arm without saying a word. Warren also seemed to be thinking about something. We were silent all the way. Back in the room, as soon as the door was closed, a warm embrace enfolded me. Warren, I'm your wife, a legal one. So, you don't need to worry that I'll leave. Warren's eyes seemed to brighten for a moment. I bent down and kissed the corner of his lips. You should also know that I've known Jason for 10 years and been his girlfriend in an ambiguous relationship for 6 years, but I still couldn't get a marriage certificate. He never gracefully admitted the relationship between me and him. That night when I left, it was actually because he announced his relationship with his Moonlight on WeChat Moments. Only then did I realize that his pursuit of me was just a ridiculous story like, Wan Wan Lei Qing. Isn't there a saying on the internet? Whoever stands under the cherry tree looks beautiful, and my love is passionate for whoever I give it to. I don't think I'm a terrible person, and my love is also precious. When I looked at Jason, I always had a filter. At first, I thought it was because of his own excellence, but later I realized that he was good, and I wasn't bad either. It was my rare love that gilded him. Perhaps, without the filter that I forced on him, he was actually just an ordinary man. So, my leaving him wasn't out of a momentary indignation. I didn't originally plan to invest my true feelings in a relationship again, let alone impulsively get married to a man I wasn't very familiar with. But, Warren, that man is you. I don't know why, but I changed my decision. Once upon a time, I loved him wholeheartedly. Now, I'll also learn to love you with all my heart and eyes. Warren's eyes were shining brightly, as if a layer of moisture was gathering. I buried my face in his neck and said softly, Warren, maybe the main reason is that you always give me the illusion that you seem to have liked me for many years. However, how could it be possible? We hardly had any intersections before. I only know that Lily, Jason's sister, used to have a crush on you. I laughed at myself. Warren was staring at me without blinking. I saw my reflection filling his bright pupils. Unless you get tired of me, I definitely won't pester you too much. However, I hope that when the day comes that we go our separate ways like the mountain birds and the fish, we can part on good terms. Warren's facial features tightened, and his eyes darkened instantly. The next second, I let out a soft cry. Warren, with his eyes red, said, "This is the punishment for your wrong words." I don't know how much time passed. After a muffled groan, Warren whispered softly in my ear, "Samara, how do you know that your illusion isn't real?" However, at that time, like a small boat tossing and turning on the sea, I didn't seem to hear Warren's whisper clearly. 18 I didn't expect to see Lily in Binhai. I was resting with my eyes closed under the sunshade outside the hotel when she showed up in front of me aggressively. "Samara, you're really a vixen. It's okay that you seduced my brother, but you're also harming Brother Warren. Are you cheap? Why are you so shameless?" I opened my eyes and looked at Lily calmly. "You have some nerve. You came all this way to covet my husband. I really didn't know that the world has become so corrupt that people who want to be mistresses are so blatant and self-righteous now." Lily didn't expect that I would scold her back so bluntly. After all, I used to be very accommodating to her. Actually, it wasn't just her. I respected and accommodated all of Jason's family members. I would painstakingly make dumplings and send them to the old house of Jason's family, prepare gifts for Jason's mother from time to time, give small presents to Lily every now and then, and even the aunts in Jason's family would receive the skin care products I sent. I tried my best to please every member of Jason's family. Although, in the end, the dumplings I made were dumped by them, the small gifts were thrown away, and Lily would even humiliate me every now and then. Even before I left, I could hear their ridicule behind my back. However, I still enjoyed doing those things without getting tired. Just because I hoped they could accept me as part of their family. Just because I loved Jason. Love is really something that can make people blind and foolish. The moment Jason announced his relationship with Rosie that night, it seemed that my blindness was cured all of a sudden. Since then, my whole world has become clear. Only then did I realize how stupid I had been before. I had even completely forgotten the most basic principle of loving oneself before loving others. The kind of love that is so humble that it only moves oneself is not what the flower of love should look like. The flower of love must be watered with the water of respect to bloom passionately and beautifully. Lily pointed at my face furiously and scolded, "Samara, don't think you're really Mrs. Warren just because you have a photoshopped photo. Who do you think you are? You don't even deserve to talk to Warren." I looked at the man behind her and said with a lazy smile, "Then Miss Lily is really ignorant. My husband adores me so much. If you don't believe it, you can ask him." Lily's eyes were almost popping out as she said, "Brother Warren would never look at a woman like you. How dare you hook up with Warren?" The man's clear voice rang out, "Well, your brother is really not a good guy. He should be dragged out, his tools for misdeeds confiscated, and then buried alive. Also, the wife I chased after so eagerly is not for you to scold like this. Before I lose my temper, get out of our sight." Lily fled in a hurry, crying. I was laughing so hard in Warren's arms that my stomach hurt. Warren looked helpless and said, "Honey, next time when you're scolding someone, call me." I didn't really get to show my full ability just now. 19 Warren and I had a wonderful time like living in a paradise in Binhai. Except that I occasionally heard through some roundabout channels that Jason had gastric ulcers again, or oral ulcers and lost 3 pounds, everything else was quite satisfactory. I found that I was becoming more and more inseparable from Warren. He was really a perfect lover. He was handsome and wealthy, considerate and good in bed. He could be cute or sexy, and was a bit crazy sometimes. In short, he completely met all my aesthetic standards. Many times when he was on top of me, I was secretly thinking to myself, why didn't I cure my blindness earlier? I had actually missed Warren for so many years. I used to think that I would only like Jason in my whole life. However, it had only been a little more than a month, and I had already fallen into another love net so quickly. And I hadn't thought of Jason for a long time already. So, the so-called 21-day withdrawal method is actually true. That is to say, the basic time for forming a new habit or an attachment to a person is 21 days. Then the time for breaking the attachment is also 21 days. During the 1st to 7th days, force yourself not to think about that person, and no matter how uncomfortable you are, don't contact him. From the 7th to the 14th days, you will only feel a little regret about this relationship. At this stage, you will find that forgetting a person is not a very difficult thing. By the final stage, you have gradually adapted to the absence of that person in your life. Perhaps, you will also develop a new interest or hobby. Even, you may fall in love with a new person. And I suddenly realized that I seemed to have let go of Jason already during the first stage. I finally understood that when he started to contact Rosie frequently behind my back a year ago, I had already been disappointed in him. My leaving was just because I had accumulated enough disappointment. The days with Warren were plain and warm during the day, and passionate at night. I put my work on hold temporarily. After all, I was just an 18th-tier actress, but I had saved some money after working hard for so many years, so I didn't have to worry about money. My life was even more comfortable. It was like a honeymoon. However, there was one drawback. Because one night, when I came out of the shower, I found that I had gained 5 pounds. Looking at my worried face, Warren, who was shirtless, rubbed the back of my head with a doting look in his eyes. "Eat as much as you want. Your husband can afford it." I punched him, and Warren grabbed my hand. "I know a way to lose weight even when you're lying down." "Which way?" "This way." "Ah, Warren. 3 times a day on average? Do you want to die?" "Samara, you are my life." When Jason called, there were already 2 small things thrown into the trash can. Warren answered the phone for me. "Samara, you've made enough of a fuss, right? I'm almost dying of illness. When are you coming back to take care of me?" Jason's angry voice came from the receiver. I had just been bumped by Warren until my head was dizzy, and my arms and legs were almost falling apart. I was so sleepy that I didn't even recognize who was on the phone. Annoying. Sleep. Annoying. I mumbled, and Warren, with a smile in his eyes, pulled me into his arms and patted me gently. "Good girl. Go to sleep." Jason's muscles tensed up when he heard the mumbles on the other end of the phone. He clenched his fists with his eyes red. Warren chuckled and said, "Jason, if you die, I'll provide you with a one-stop service. You can choose any feng shui treasure land. I'll bury you and scatter your ashes." Hearing the hoarse voice of the man, Jason had no doubt about what he had just been through. He had been intimate with Samara countless times, and he naturally knew how charming she was in bed at night. He roared, "Who the hell are you? Where's Samara?" Warren kissed my face gently while whispering into the phone, "You know very well who I am. Disturbing my wife at 1 o'clock in the morning. We're all adults, Jason. There's no need to ask when you already know." 20 Jason was almost going crazy. "Warren." Warren saw that the woman in his arms seemed to frown because of the noise. He gently patted Samara's back. "Isn't your white moonlight the one you should care about? What does it have to do with Samara? Don't worry. I don't fancy your white moonlight, and I'm not interested in stealing her. Also, I'd like to clarify that I have nothing to do with your sister. I can't handle such a virtuous sister like yours." Jason punched the wall, and his knuckles bled instantly. He gritted his teeth with red eyes and said, "When you attended my family gathering before, were you there for Samara?" Warren laughed softly, "If you say so." The woman in his arms mumbled, "Annoying. Sleep. So noisy." She mumbled and snuggled closer to Warren's arms. Warren kissed Samara's cheek dotingly. "Baby, be good. Go to sleep now. Jason, please don't call my wife again in the future." Warren then hung up the phone. Jason looked at the blacked-out phone, his head full of Samara's mumbles from the other end of the phone just now. He punched the wall again. 21 After I woke up, Warren told me that Jason had called. My face remained calm. "He's not an important person. Why did you argue with him? Aren't you afraid it will affect your mood?" Warren was stunned. I gave him a blank look. "Warren, do you really have such a lack of security?" "I'm sorry." He apologized so readily that I didn't know what to do. I could only give him another blank look. I didn't expect that less than 24 hours after that phone call, I would see Jason at the entrance of the hotel. He was still as tall as I remembered, but he didn't seem to have the carefree charm he used to have. There were some stubbles on his chin, and his dark circles were quite heavy. He did look a lot thinner, but also seemed much more decadent. I thought he would pick a fight with me, and instinctively prepared to run away. However, Jason just smiled at me. "Samara, I've come to pick you up. Every time we had a quarrel before, it was always you who gave in. This time, it's my turn to give in to you. I've come to take you home." I suddenly felt a bit dazed. Home. Which home? The house where he kept me in Beijing? I used to stubbornly call that house home. Just because I poured all my love and passion into it, because he was there. However, now, that place is no longer a home. I met Jason when I was 16. The young man was unrestrained and flamboyant. When he ran against the light, the wind he stirred up was full of dust that I couldn't hold on to. I worked hard and finally got to his side, becoming a friend who had the right to talk to him. After that, when I was 20, I summoned up the courage to confess my love to Jason. He looked down at me from above, with a wild smile on his face. How long have you liked me? I was trembling, but my small heart was full of strength. Does falling in love at first sight 4 years ago count? Jason was stunned for a moment, then he smiled at me and pinched my cheek. Follow me from now on. So, at the age of 20, I followed Jason. He didn't say who I was to him. He only said, "Follow me." I was both humble and delighted. On the night of his birthday, he gave me an access card to the house that I later stubbornly called home. There, I was overjoyed to express my love for Jason. Like a moth drawn to a flame. However, love has never been a one-sided investment. People say that mutual love can overcome all difficulties. In fact, even mutual love can hardly overcome all difficulties. Otherwise, how could Jason have failed to reach his white moonlight Rosie in the past? So, let alone someone like me who was so brave but alone in my pursuit. 22. Pulling my thoughts back from the memories, I looked at the thin Jason. Jason, please go. Jason took a step forward. He tried to reach out and grab my wrist. I dodged immediately, with a hint of disgust in my eyes. Jason's hand paused for a few seconds. He looked into my eyes and seemed to be startled by my gaze for a moment. Samara, Rosie and I are not together. I've made it clear to her that I don't love her. Sam was right. He said that maybe the one I liked wasn't the present Rosie, but the Rosie in my memory that I didn't manage to pursue. She was just my obsession. I mistook my obsession for liking. I chased in the wrong direction and lost you. Samara, give me a chance. Let's start over. This time, it's my turn to chase you. For a moment, I felt a bit sad. Today is the 42nd day since I left Jason. It seems that his 21-day withdrawal reaction didn't succeed. Even double the time didn't make him break free from the influence of me in his life. After realizing this, I don't know whether I should gloat or sigh. After all, he was the one I pursued wholeheartedly in my past youth. Even though the result wasn't as perfect as I expected when I fell in love with him at first sight, and even went to the opposite extreme. However, he was still the most prominent part in my gloomy youth. It was the bravest pursuit that I could never forget. The love written in 10 years of ignorance, even if it has already turned to ashes, will still flutter in my memory. I was crazy about love, I was reckless, and I was hysterical. I've done everything that should be done. So, my withdrawal was decent and appropriate. So, I could let go of my obsession with Jason within a week. So, I could respond passionately to Warren's love. 23. Looking at Jason's distracted yet longing eyes, I suddenly let go of the hurt he had once caused me. Those sleepless nights and days of uneasiness seemed to drift away with the gentle sea breeze. I smiled faintly. Jason, thank you for teaching me how to be a good lover. I used to love you so much, but I lost myself. I tried to please your family, hoping they would accept me. I followed your preferences, hoping you would respond with enough love. But in the end, I found that your family still didn't like me, and I seemed to be dispensable in your heart. I finally realized that I was going further and further astray on the wrong path of loving you. Eventually, I lost myself. There was pain in Jason's eyes. He said, Samara, I'm sorry for what I did to you in the past. I'll make it up to you in the future. But you were wrong about one thing. You're not dispensable to me. I thought I loved Rosie, but after you left with your suitcase that night, I realized that a big part of my heart seemed to be empty. I only then discovered that, without my knowing when, you had already settled in the bottom of my heart. Samara, I finally realized that I can't live without you. You've taken root in my heart. When you left, you took away a big piece of my flesh and blood with you. During the days when you were away, I stayed in our house, lay on our bed, hugged your dinosaur pillow, and I swear you were on my mind all the time. Samara, you've loved me for 10 years. This time, let me be more active. Let me chase you, okay? The official announcement, engagement, and marriage you wanted, I can give them to you right away. I just hope you'll turn back. You were the one who chased me first. You can't abandon me halfway. If it were 42 days ago, when I heard Jason's words, I would surely have been moved to tears and thrown myself into his arms. However, now, there was only a barely noticeable ripple in my heart. We, after all, have missed each other. Jason and I have taught each other how to be good lovers. However, we met at the wrong time. But fortunately, the time when we separated was right. Just in time for me to meet Warren, the field of love was barren. As time passed, when I suddenly looked back, another person had already moved in with great fanfare. There was no more space left for the former occupant. I looked into Jason's eyes and said calmly, "Jason, thank you for finally giving me a response. But I already have Warren. He's very good to me. I'm loving him more and more. Jason, you'll meet someone who can really make you settle down in the future. But that person won't be me anymore." After saying that, I was about to turn around when Jason grabbed my wrist. "Samara. I'm wrong. I'm sorry. I really know I'm wrong." I could hear the sobbing in Jason's voice. After all, he was the man I had loved with all my life. I couldn't help but feel a pang in my heart. Turning around, I pulled my hand out of his palm. "Jason, take care of yourself in the future. I'm already married, and—" I paused. A glimmer of hope appeared in Jason's eyes. I reached into my bag and took out something. "Jason, I'm pregnant. It's Warren's. I cherish my husband, my child, and my family very much. Jason, I also hope you'll be happy." 24. The two bright red lines were glaring and heart-wrenching. Ignoring the shock in Jason's eyes and the light that flickered out in an instant, I turned around and left. But at the corner, I bumped into a warm and solid embrace. I staggered and was pulled into Warren's arms. Looking up, I saw a few traces of panic on his handsome and rugged face. "Honey, did I bump into you?" I reached out and smoothed his furrowed brows. "How long have you been here?" There was a hint of uneasiness in Warren's eyes. "Just a little while." I couldn't help but laugh. "Honey, you're even using reduplicated words. You're a bit cheesy. What should I do?" Warren blushed, which was rare for him. "Honey, you said you'd give me a surprise. Is this the surprise?" His eyes moved to my lower abdomen. There was uneasiness all over his expression. I threw my arms around Warren's waist. Looking up, I looked at Warren's handsome face with a smile yet teary eyes. "Congratulations, sir. You're going to be a father." Suddenly, a teardrop fell on my cheek. Then came a kiss that was a mixture of intense love and caution. "Honey, I love you so much. Thank you. Thank you for not leaving me." I was crying and laughing in Warren's arms. I scolded him jokingly for being petty. "Were you afraid that I'd run away with Jason?" Warren's tears were like a floodgate opening. "Now you can't run away. See where you can run to." I patted his chest, only to have my wrist caught by him. "It'll hurt your hand if you're spanked like this. I'll feel bad about it. Let's go back and use a ruler for spanking. That way, your hand won't hurt and you can still get a good spanking." "Warren, do you have to be so?" "Honey, I only act like this in front of you." We both ignored Jason completely. I didn't even notice when he left. He was already an insignificant person in my life. There are many forks in the road of life. That night, Jason and I had already gone our separate ways in the evening breeze. The next day, Warren nervously helped me onto the plane back to Beijing. He repeatedly told the captain to fly steadily and to keep a safe distance from birds. Seeing the captain's worried and cautious look, I guessed he must be cursing Warren in his heart. "Honey, take it slow. If you're tired, thirsty, or hungry, you must let me know." Looking at Warren acting as if facing a formidable enemy, I even regretted telling Warren the news that I was pregnant. Because he had already cried 5 times while holding me last night. 25. Our wedding was held when our twin sons were 2 years old. Yes, Warren is really capable. But he said the most important thing was that I was even more amazing. I gave birth to a pair of twin sons for him. However, our wedding had been postponed all the time. It wasn't that Warren didn't want to marry me earlier. It was really because I was too lazy and too busy. I was extremely lazy during pregnancy. But I didn't have morning sickness. Instead, Warren vomited for 3 months. I mercilessly laughed at him for almost a year. After giving birth, I took on 2 more acting jobs and was extremely busy. Warren was very supportive of my work and I also loved acting very much. He said that loving someone is like taking care of a flower. My wife can do whatever she wants and be as happy as she likes. So, I did whatever made me happy. I worked diligently on the script and spent all my time on the film set. So, the wedding was postponed all the time. Warren pestered me for a proper status. He brought our 2 sons and surrounded me, one on each side, looking pitiful and said, "Honey, when can I show up in public with you?" I grinned at him. "I'm quite busy recently. Director Tang has invited me to act in a play." Finally, one day, Warren couldn't bear it anymore. He secretly found Director Tang, who gave me the script and threatened him with an investment of 30 million yuan. So, my third acting job was temporarily put on hold. Well, since he was crying and begging me to give him a proper status, I'll reluctantly spoil him this once. The wedding was held in Beijing. The media reported it extensively, using very flowery words. A wedding of the century, a dreamy wedding, the prince and princess come to life, the leading actress Samara marries into the Warren family. When I saw the words, marries into, I knew it must be Warren's bad idea. Our 2 sons shakily presented the rings to us. When Warren was putting the ring on my finger, his hand was shaking uncontrollably. I whispered through gritted teeth without moving my lips, "Brother, you're still young. It's not time for Parkinson's yet. This is my wedding, not my funeral." Finally, Warren managed to put the ring on my finger. When he hugged me and kissed me, he was in tears. I looked at the corner of the audience and vaguely saw the figure of Jason. I smiled in that direction. 26 Jason walked out of Samara's wedding. He was afraid that if he stayed there any longer, his heart might stop beating. Although it had been such a long time, he still couldn't face the fact that Samara was already Warren's wife calmly. Even though he knew that she had already given birth to 2 sons for Warren and that things between them were already beyond repair, he still kept an eye on everything about Samara. He was following all of her social media accounts. When Samara was giving birth, Warren was crying in the delivery room, and he was crying in the safety passage outside the delivery room. When Samara went to film in other places, his car would always drive around the film crew from time to time. He watched her from a distance, as she was passionately acting out different lives in her costumes. Only then did he suddenly realize that Samara was actually so excellent. During the years when she was with him, it was he who had buried her brilliance after all. He was doing these meaningless things in vain. It seemed that he was atoning for the 10 years when Samara had suffered at his hands. Rosie had come to him crying countless times, but he had always turned her away. Jason had countless dreams about the night when Samara left. He also knew that Samara was waiting for him at home. He even knew that Samara was waiting for him to propose to her. But he didn't do any of that. He deliberately ignored the love that Samara was showing. He watched helplessly as that passionate love shattered into pieces, leaving only remnants. He had posted an official announcement with Rosie. Later, Jason regretted it countless times when he thought back to that night. He finally had to admit that Samara was calmer that night than he had expected. It turns out that when people have accumulated enough disappointment, they leave without a sound. And he had arrogantly thought that as long as he crooked his finger, the girl who followed him would come running towards him with a big smile, just like in the past 10 years. However, times had changed. He finally understood that no one would wait for someone in the same place forever. The girl who had him in her heart and eyes was lost by him in the evening breeze of late spring in Beijing. 27 Warren took his wife and sons, the family of 4, to Binhai for a vacation. Samara asked, "Husband, why are we coming here again?" Warren gently kissed the corner of her lips, his eyes full of tender affection. "Honey, don't you remember? This is the place where we fell in love." The sun was setting, and the sea was bathed in a warm orange-yellow glow. A scene flashed through Warren's mind. Many years ago, when he followed his father to visit Jason's family, he saw a quiet girl in a white dress. The little girl looked a bit timid, but when she looked at Jason, her eyes were full of admiration. At that moment, her face just so boldly crashed into the bottom of his heart. His family background was better than Jason's, and he was more ambitious than Jason. From childhood to adulthood, he had never envied or been jealous of Jason. But after that day, he began to be jealous of Jason. He pretended to add Samara's WeChat casually. He started to look at Samara's WeChat moments in the dead of night. He even secretly thought that her name was Samara and his name was Warren. The south wind knows my heart, and blows my dreams to Warren. Their names were such a good match. They were the perfect couple. Until he saw Samara moving into Jason's villa. That night, he drank all night. To cut off this irrational feeling, he took the initiative to go abroad and worked hard to improve his studies and career. He was successful in his career, but the long distance didn't extinguish the fire in his heart. Until one day, he saw Samara's WeChat moment. It's just 10 years. I still have several more decades. The feelings that he had suppressed for nearly 10 years instantly turned into a huge wave. He immediately booked a ticket back to China and appeared behind Samara. When he saw the lonely and slender figure on the beach in Binhai, he endured the dull pain in his heart and walked forward step by step. With thousands of thoughts in his heart, they all condensed into a simple sentence: Samara, hello. Samara, do you know that your chaotic 10 years were also 10 years that I couldn't share with others? The eldest son picked up a conch shell and excitedly ran to Warren to show off. Dad, a conch shell. Warren picked up his son and kissed him. Great. Let's go and give it to Mom together. He stood up and took his son's chubby little hand and walked step by step towards the love of his life.